Dudes and dudettes, how are you guys? This is Chazzy and welcome back to The Mixer, the segment on this channel where I give you guys all sorts of detailed analysis on different things, you know, cultural tidbits and nature, animals, food, people, athletes, celebrities, whatever the hell you want, you know, you get here on this segment. And today's video was a remake of an old one that I did about a year ago or so, but that was a concept vlog, and this one is also going to be, but I'm going to kind of remake it in a different way and actually give you guys photos, maybe some videos and stuff, you know. I'm liking my concept vlogs lately to be a bit more out there, you know, so I will talk. It's just gonna be me talking, but I will give you guys some editing. So okay, maybe it's not gonna be a concept vlog then, but anyway, I want to talk about something. And the last time that I talked about this, I shared just my personal opinion about it, you know, but I'm going to give you guys, as the title says, the pros and the cons of both sides of the spectrum here, you know, which is apartments and houses. Okay, now everybody has their preference when it comes to housing, you know, which one you prefer to live in and why. And I have been in like throughout my entire life, I have always lived in houses except for a brief period of my childhood growing up in Brazil, you know, before going to the United States. And I actually lived briefly in an apartment with my parents, you know, and to me it always felt like a house, you know. Like when I was young, we're talking about like what, maybe I was 2 or 3, I don't even know, maybe even 4. I was really young and I don't remember too much of it back then, you know. So apartment life never really, it didn't really feel very effective to me, you know. But what I can recall is that for many years of my life, whether it's here in this country or in another one or in a different state, I always lived in houses, you know, whether it was with my parents. And when I finally moved out, I also rented a house and then later another one, which is where I live today. This house that I live in is on the 2nd floor of a little complex, and there are 4 different houses in the surrounding area. So some people look at it as like an apartment, but it's not. It's not a studio apartment, it is a house. I'm thinking about doing a full house tour for you guys one day in one video and showing you every nook and cranny of this place, so you guys are gonna see what I mean, that it's really not an apartment at all. But the thing is that despite never having lived for an extended period in an actual apartment, for some reason in my head, it always felt like the better option, you know? I don't really understand why, I just always preferred apartments, you know? There is this very strange comfort factor in apartments that you can't find in most houses, you know? I have visited so many friends with apartments, you know, and it always seems like we kind of have that cliche of the Friends thing in our heads, where every apartment is like a Monica Geller huge space, you know, or maybe even a slightly smaller but still cozy Joey and Chandler kind of thing, you know. And it's kind of strange because I don't know, man, I just always grew up with this mentality, this American mentality, that apartments are much safer and more comfortable and easier to clean than houses, you know, because the upkeep is definitely less, you know, unless, even if you have a really big apartment, it's not going to bring in the amount of dust and dirt that a house could have, you know. Especially if you have pets. And even if you do, your pet is going to get your house much dirtier than they would in an apartment, you know. Dogs that are, you know, raised in apartments have a different behavior than those that are raised in houses, you know. Usually the ones that are in houses can run around and stuff. They go outside, they come back in with their dirty paws and track mud everywhere, you know. In apartments, usually if you live in an apartment, you're a bit more of a tidy, clean freak, you know. So if you have pets, it's gonna make the experience a little easier, you know. I've always associated apartments with a safe haven, you know, easier to clean, not as much dust gets in, you know, and also because you can't make too much noise in an apartment complex, there are rules there, you know. You can't throw loud parties with music until a certain hour, you know, like there's a curfew, let's say, you know, and there are many rules and regulations, very strict rules, and that's what I actually like about it, you know. I am a very quiet person, you know. I like silence. I love it so much. Unfortunately, where I live, a lot of the times it's not silent, you know. When I'm sitting down to record YouTube videos, I will be lucky if there's a moment, like at least an hour of no sound at all in the background, you know, which doesn't happen a lot. If you guys watch my videos, if you have been here for a while, you know that a lot of the things that, you know, happen in the background are dogs barking or motorcycles driving by really loudly, you know, so, or sometimes a neighbor playing loud music. So that kind of stuff really really irritates me. And in apartments, you literally can't do any of it, you know? It's against the law, you know? You can't make loud noises if you live in an apartment, you know? Even if you have pets. So because of that, it feels like it would be much more cozy for me, you know, much more, you know, convenient. Coming home from work and knowing that there will be no loud noises to disturb me, being able to wake up in the morning knowing there will be no loud noises to disturb me, and if I happen to stay home all day, being able to just chill knowing that no loud noises will disturb me, you know? Even though rent is usually more expensive in an apartment, and so is some of the maintenance sometimes, you know, depending on which one you live in, you know? At least here in Brazil, you pay an additional fee just for living in the neighborhood itself as an apartment, you know? Because they're usually fancier, everything is more expensive, you know? But like I said, the safety factor is amazing. Everything feels comfortable, especially if you live like on a top floor. Okay, maybe not penthouse, but if you live on a high floor, you can open the window in the morning, look out and see the view, you know? It just, even though I live on the second story and I have a pretty nice view myself, that's not the point. I just think that apartments in general, they give me a better sense of satisfaction and happiness, you know? I've always felt that, you know. I love following those profiles on Instagram, you know, that shows architecture and different apartments, the interior of these amazing places and living spaces, you know. It's just amazing, especially in the terrace, the penthouse, but of course you have to be a millionaire to afford that, you know. I've always liked apartments a lot better, you know. If one day I can afford to, I will definitely try to live in one, you know. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, you know, or the top floor of anything, but of course not the first floor either. That would just suck, you know. Maybe just a few floors up would be a little more little interesting for me, you know. I've always had this attachment to it, you know. Just imagine, it's like, I'm very lazy when it comes to cleaning, you know, so an apartment I think would be much easier to clean, you know, even if it's a small space, especially if it's a small space, you know, just one person living by themselves. I've always felt that, you know, and architecture really fascinates me when it comes to apartments, you know, because of how good they look, like in places like New York or Chicago, California, where everything looks fancy as hell, you know. I just love it so much, man, you know. I've always had that feeling, that attraction to apartments, you know, and I'm a stickler for the rules. I don't make loud noises, so I would fit into an apartment complex very well, you know. Don't have any pets right now that live with me. I just think I would be a very good neighbor, you know. I just think I would get along with everybody because nobody would disturb me and I would not disturb anybody, unless maybe I record YouTube videos or something, you know. I don't know. I'm gonna show you guys now a few photos here of what I consider to be fancy apartments, just to hammer the point home a little bit more. Let's take a look at some random apartments here from Google Images. Gotta admit, man, those look really nice, you know. Maybe I overdid it on the fanciness, but still, I think they look cool, you know. I mean, imagine how safe they are, you know, because even if you live in a rough neighborhood, there is safety in apartments, you know, because there's the downstairs lobby, you know. You have to be a registered resident there in the complex to even get inside, you know, with lock and keys, security personnel watching downstairs. Then you have to go upstairs, you know. Maybe there's a little gate where you have to go inside to your own little block there, you know, and then there's your door. It's really hard for you to get mugged in an apartment, you know. It's really hard for somebody to rob you, unless of course you go through a series of unfortunate events where, you know, the freaking how do you call it, the gatekeeper? That sounds like the doors to hell or something. The guy at the gate, you know, I don't know, he gets shot or something. I don't know. There are circumstances where apartments can be just as unsafe as houses, but I still think it's there's a very large margin there. Houses now, on the other hand, the upkeep is much higher, you know. You might not always pay rent. You might actually pay a mortgage on a house and eventually after years completely pay it off, so it's your house. You don't pay rent anymore, you know, and it becomes like it becomes an inheritance for your children, you know, your grandchildren, future generations, you know. We see this a lot of people who have a house, you know, they build it many years ago and it just keeps being handed down for generations, you know. The kids live there and then the grandkids, the great-grandkids, you know, everybody stays in that same property there, which is wise from, you know, a housing standpoint, you know, because like the housing market in the US right now is crazy, you know, and just being able to rent a house would set you back maybe a couple $1,000 bucks, you know. So of course, like being being able to actually, you know, get into real estate and understand more how this works would benefit you in the long run. A house is more financially stable, you know, and even if you rent one, you're not going to pay as much as you would if you rented an apartment because of all the aforementioned things that I said before, you know. And I also think that depending on the house, it can be just as safe as an apartment, but I don't think so, you know. I don't think that houses offer you the same amount of security that an apartment does, you know, because you're living in a neighborhood. Of course, if you live in a mansion in a closed neighborhood, then that's a completely different story, you know, but I'm not talking about celebrities here, you know, just regular average Joes wanting to make a down payment on a regular house, you know. And usually houses are bigger, so they are much more work to clean. Going back to the whole having pets thing, you know, you can have, if you have a bigger house, you can have more pets, which will, you know, bring in more dirt and stuff, you know, from the street, you know, a lot more dust will gather. And if you have a backyard or a front yard, that's more cleaning for you, you know. So if you have 2 stories, you know, an attic, a basement, that's more cleaning for you, you know. It just doesn't seem like you might have your own garage and put your car in there and I have to actually have a limited space for that, you know. There are pros and cons to both, but even though I've lived in many houses throughout my life, I've always felt like they didn't really feel as pleasurable to live in as apartments because of the safety factor. I lived for 9 years in Rio de Janeiro in a pretty rough neighborhood. In my house, I live with my parents, so our house kind of, you know, it wasn't a very complicated part of town, you know, so we never felt safe despite having a gate with like a pointed guardrail, you know, that you could freaking, you know, gouge yourself on and die if you tried to climb it, you know. Our gate, I mean, it's not just like, oh, but the gate is locked so it's safe. That's not really how it works, man. People can pick locks, you know, it's really tough. So we never really felt very safe there. And here in the interior of Sao Paulo, it's much more, you know. I live in a small house on the 2nd floor, like I said. My neighborhood is okay, you know. I recently convinced my landlord to give us a lock so we could put on the front gate, so now only if you live here you can come in and out freely, you know. So I know I do feel much safer here than I did in Rio de Janeiro, that's for sure. But houses in general to me I've looked at them and seen them as higher maintenance, you know. I can't really see, even though it would give me more space. I live by myself, man, and even if I was married, you know, I don't see the reason as why I would need to have so much damn space for a house, you know. Even if I had a couple of kids, there's no reason for me to live in a mansion, you know. I've never really felt the need to have a mansion, even if I was rich, because if you live by yourself or even if you have a spouse, you know, what are you guys gonna do with all that space, you know? There's no reason to have all of that to give you more upkeep and have to hire more maids and housekeepers and stuff, you know, who might eventually steal your stuff, you know. I had one of my relatives a long time ago, I guess something happened with their housekeeper, you know, maybe they didn't get along or got into an argument. She waited for them to leave one day and got their key and went there with her relatives, and they all just ransacked the place and stole stuff, you know. So yeah, if you have a big house, you're gonna need a housekeeper, and I don't trust housekeepers, so I don't know, it doesn't really seem very, I don't know, man. The idea of never paying rent again in your life does really, you know, it is very interesting. It does, like, you know, I can't deny that it would be very financially, you know, financially intelligent to do, you know, but I still, if I had the choice, if I could afford one or the other, I would probably buy an apartment for myself instead of buying a house, you know, because I just don't really feel the need, man. Storms, by the way, you know, here when it rains, here in my house, sometimes the water gets in, you know, through the cracks, you know, through outside there, the little terrace. A long time ago, it used to drip from the ceiling, you know, it coming through the front door and even the walls, you know. So in apartments, that doesn't really happen unless your apartment sucks, you know. So there is also that. Natural disasters can ravage your house very quickly depending on the region that you live in and what kind of a house it is, you know. And apartments, that doesn't really happen, you know. I don't think there's ever been a hurricane or tsunami strong enough to knock a freaking apartment down, you know. Maybe I'm wrong. Feel free to fact check and quote me on that in the comments, but I don't think that's ever happened, you know. But it just seems safer for also this, you know. Houses aren't very safe when it comes to natural disasters, man. Rain, tornadoes, you know, strong winds, whatever the hell, floods. Whatever you got, a house might not be able to take it, and apartments always will. So that's also another very good pro and con there. And as I did with the previous one, I feel it's only fair to do so here as well, you know. Because I don't really feel an attraction to houses and don't feel a need for that much open space, there are still houses that look amazing. They look beautiful, you know. And I'm going to show you guys now some photos of what I consider to be very nice looking homes from Google Images. All right, I'll admit, even though I'm partial to apartments, those houses there, you know, because I already imagine what I'm gonna choose. I'm already visualizing that it's gonna be a lot of fancy homes, you know, so maybe one of those houses might convince me, but I don't know, man. I still prefer apartments, you know. There was actually, I think it still is on Netflix, you know, there's this series called The World's Most Extraordinary Homes. I'm gonna leave a link to a trailer here, you know, on YouTube. You can go watch it later, and that it shows you so many amazing exotic homes around the world, you know, and of course, maybe I'm gonna leave a link down here in the description of this video to a profile on Instagram called, I think, Modern Architecture, something of the sort, where you guys can take a look at different houses. You know, a lot of the ones that I showed in the video plus more, you know, I think it's amazing. You know, I love architecture. Never really felt the need to be an architect, but I like the process of seeing different homes, you know. I just like it a lot, you know. And the idea that somebody goes to college to study and eventually get a job where they put that together, you look at the blueprints and eventually see that becoming a thing. I just always thought that was really cool. You know, I used to like building stuff when I was a kid with Legos and whatnot. You know, how I never got into construction, I don't know, because I've always been kind of interested in it. I've always enjoyed putting things together, you know, building stuff. But anyway, so yeah, man, I guess that's it. You know, I am actually gonna do something really cool here. First of all, I want you guys to let me know in the comments below what you think about this, what your opinions are, if you prefer houses or apartments, and let me know why. Tell me which one you prefer and why. Give me reasons, you know. Let me know if you agree or disagree with the points that I established here. If I left anything out, you know, let me know. And participate in this poll right here that I'm gonna leave up here. Just click on it and it's gonna open up, you know, before the video ends. Just click if you prefer apartment or house, you know, so I can see how it's going to be divided amongst the viewers of this video here. So click on that right there and just choose apartments or houses, whichever one I put there, you know, just so I can see later as the days and weeks go by how that percentage is going to oscillate. Okay, let me know in the comments below, guys. I really do want to know. Okay, hopefully you enjoyed the photos that I showed you. You know, I was going to maybe show a clip or two, but there's not going to be enough time for that, so let's just move on. And also, my battery is low. I got to see if I can get my outro done before the camera turns off, you know. So anyway, guys, if you happen to enjoy this video, please go ahead and give it a like, and also subscribe to my channel because I release videos every single day. And while you're at it, hit the notification bell too, so you can know exactly what time I upload, man. One day I'm gonna monetize this channel and be able to afford my dream apartment in New York City. People say that living there sucks, by the way. It's not a good place for, you know, the real estate market, but I don't know, maybe somewhere else. California, I don't know, man, anywhere in the United States, just please take me back, Uncle Sam. Oh, I miss you so much. And that's it, guys. This is Chazzy signing out for now, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Roll the outro screen.